Hey everybody, this is me, Undead Viking. I'm here to do a video for you about Strife. Now, this is not Strife Legacy of the Ancients, a game that I did a review for, wow, back in 2014, I think. That's quite a while ago. This is kind of like the sequel, but a standalone game on its own, called Strife Shadows in Steam. Now, Strife Shadows in Steam plays by the same rules that exist in Legacy of the Ancients, but I'm still going to show you how to play the game. Whereas Legacy of the Ancients had a very cool fantasy theme, this one has kind of a steampunk theme, but the theme could have been anything. It just has really, really awesome art on the cards, however. These big, cool tarot-sized cards, which I really like. I have giant hands, so having large cards, I actually appreciate that very much. But this is a game of combat where each player has the same people, the same cards that represent the same battle champions. And what it is kind of a bluffing and outthinking your opponent type game that I really enjoy. I love that aspect. And then what you're going to be doing is you're playing a card. Each card will have certain powers that will affect the other player. And then there also is a legacy, like discard row as well, and the cards on those actually affect. And so it's a lot of things where you're looking at the other person's cards that they've played and things like that, where you're trying to decide which one of your cards is the best possible card to play, but also trying to remember, since everybody's cards are the same, you'll be looking at the cards and saying, well, if he plays the Illusionist, he's going to have that power. Or you're looking over at the Legacy side, and you'll be sitting there saying, well, he's got the Alchemist on top of his, Legacy deck. What's the power of that? How is that going to affect what I play? And things like that. And so it is a very, very enjoyable, thinky game that I've enjoyed quite a bit. So let me show you how to play the game, and then we'll come back here and I'll tell you more about Strife Shadows in Steam. Alright, this is Strife Shadows in Steam. If you have played or seen Strife Legacy of the Ancients, this is going to look very familiar to you. If you haven't, well, let me just walk you through what you have here. Each person has a deck of cards, and the deck of cards is exactly the same. It has the same battle champions on the other side. I'll show this to you in just a quick moment. There are some tokens here that you're going to be placing because of game effects that will affect what are the location cards that are located in the middle. This is the location deck. The card that is the location card that is furthest away from the location deck will be the location that the two players are going to be battling over and trying to claim, and thereby get points for it. So in this case, the location is the Citadel, and the 3 on there means it's worth 3 points if you take it. Now that can be altered because of things that happen during the game or during the round, but in this case, this is worth 3 right now. And then it has some special rules, and it says add 2 power to any royal agents during combat here. So you might be saying, well, what does that mean? Well, I'll explain that in just a second. Last but not least, this is your score tracker. I should have said penultimately last but not least. Score tracker, pretty simple. As you score points, just go like that. Notice the 0. So if you score, a 10 or more, you can start going 10 and then 20 and so forth. And that's how you keep track of your points using the score tracker. And then finally, you don't have to use that. You can use a piece of paper or whatever. But there's a cool little turn order. That's what last but not least is. The turn order just kind of tells you the basic rules. This is a game that you can teach to somebody in probably about 5 minutes, though it will take a little while to get used to all the different powers and abilities that you're going to be using, and being able to kind of formulate strategies as well. Now, as I said, both players start with the exact same deck of cards, and then you have these battle champions, and they go from 0 all the way to 9 points, and that is their battle power. Now, that would be a pretty basic game if you were just putting cards down and whatever, and then just battling it out, comparing the strengths of the people that you're choosing. The game does suggest the first time you play the game, you just play that. You don't play with any of the special rules that are down here. I don't do that, but I could see where if you're playing with somebody that just wants to kind of get the basic mechanisms of it, playing a round of that, just, like getting through the deck once to see what happens, might be helpful. But anyway, regardless, so on your turn, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be, well, especially, I should say, on the very first turn, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be picking 2 cards. So just, you might be saying, why are you picking 2 cards? Well, because not only are you going to be picking a card that's going to battle, but you're going to be picking a card that is going to be kind of not your discard pile, but your legacy pile. Now, by legacy pile, what it is, it's it's second deck. Like this, let's say that's your legacy pile over there. And when you play a card, the next turn, what happens is that you put this card over on top of your legacy, and then that becomes the card that's on your legacy pile. And then you then pick a card on your next turn that you face down, you reveal, and so on and so forth. The legacy pile is important because on each of these cards, like here we have the Illusionist, it has, this is the battle effect, now you see me, add +7 to the Illusionist power, and then this is the legacy power. Now you don't. You reduce the power of your battle champion by 1 in order to exchange the Illusionist with a champion from your hand, then trigger the new champion's legacy ability. So you can see where that's, you know, just some funky little rule. Now, how does that work exactly? So I'm just going to grab one here at random. I'm not going to be like doing strategies or anything like that. So each person will pick one card at the very beginning that will be their legacy, like so, and then they reveal that one. And so then this would be the Rifle Mage, and they have the Inquisitor. And then whoever has the highest value of their first card in their legacy pile is going to get this, the Fate die. The Fate die starts off at 1, and it is given to the player. And then if there's ever a tie when it comes to the battle, like after all is said and done, you check the different levels of the strengths or whatever, and if that's equal, the person with the Fate die will lose the battle because they have the Fate die. But they can choose to give the Fate die to the other player, and then you increase that by 1, so you would go up to 2, and then that person would win the battle. And so then the other person had the Fate die, and then they have the choice later on during a tie to give it back, you know, raise it to 3, and then they would. Now, you might be saying, well, why wouldn't you give it away? You know, well, if you end the game with the Fate die, you get bonus victory points equal to the number that is on that die. So that's why it's kind of like one of those things: do I want to give this up? Do I want to give them extra points? That kind of thing. So both people have picked that. They have their Inquisitor, they have the Rifle Mage, they have that set up, and now I'm just once again going to do this randomly. They're going to pick one card each, like so. So like that one. And I'm just, like I said, this is going to be completely random, so it might not make any sense what I'm doing. So we do that, and then each person would reveal their cards immediately. So we have an Alchemist, and we have the Sky Patrol. So what we have here is that we have a 3 versus 0. Here, why don't I turn this around so you can actually see it up close. So you have a 3 versus a 0. So the first thing that happens is the one that has the higher number, the higher power, is going to enact their battle strategy first. So this one says, Poison. You may force your opponent to exchange their current battle champion with one from their hand of lower base power. If they cannot, reduce their battle champion's base power to 0. Once resolved, prevent the activation of your opponent's battle ability. So, in this case, we have a weird situation where it's impossible for them to do that because they picked a Sky Pirate, which has a 0. And now notice that like on these things, it does actually list like a race and things on there. Like this one's a human, and this one's a dwarf. Sometimes, I mean, like things like that will matter. In this case, it won't. What would matter is that if we had any royal agents that were played, and let me just show you, for example. Like here is a royal agent. And so then like in this particular location, if you played a royal agent, it would be +2 power because it is the Citadel. So in this situation, and it should be mentioned that when it says that you may force your opponent to do it, when anything says you may, you can choose not to. So like in this situation, the Alchemist might not choose to have them do that. So okay, fine. So then the Sky Patrol gets to do theirs. So aerial reconnaissance, you may increase the Sky Pirate's power by the total current victory point value of all the face-up locations. And so in this case, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Alchemist is probably going to lose. But let's go ahead and we have to do the legacy ones as well. So let me see here. So then now we do the Inquisitor because it's the higher, 8 versus 5. And so Silence Heretic, prevent the activation of your opponent's current legacy champion. That's pretty straightforward. It just prevents the Rifle Mage from doing their secret power, which would have been Steam Trap. You may place a trap token onto any face-up location. Trap tokens reduce your opponent's battle champion's power by 3 during combat. Wow, that could have been actually huge because of the fact that it was 6 versus 3. Because then, if that had been able to do, you would take one of these tokens, it's -3 power, and you could have placed it on there like so. And then when it came down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it would have been 6 versus 3, it would have been 3 versus 3. And then they would have had to decide if they would lose the combat or if they gave it up and gave the other one, they would have to go to 2. So see, you can see how like that really like works like that, because of the fact that you're trying to determine what the other person's card is going to be played. Now the big thing is that this is an open knowledge game. You always can know like which cards the other player has left, and you can always see like who's in their legacy deck and things like that. So it is not like a thing where you have to memorize, okay, did he play number 3? Did he play number 4? So keep that in mind. Now, the other two effects that are possible, you have a +1 power token, which once again, if you can place that, you place it on a location. You don't have to place it on the most recent one. You can place it back, like we could have placed this trap back there if we didn't be able to place a trap. You can place it, and then as those locations move this way, the traps or the +1 power, or I should say this -1 victory point, I'll explain that in just a second, would move with the cards. Now the -1 victory point, if you get to place that token, you get to place that on a location. And if you ever, in this case like a -1 victory point to this one, if you ever reduce the victory points available at a location to 0, that place is immediately destroyed, and you take it and you remove it from your play, and then you just move these down, and you would draw another card, and you place it in there. And so, and the reason why you do that is sometimes, like here, the Royal Academy, add 2 power to any rifle mages during combat here. Well, if you don't have your rifle mage left, but the other player does, maybe you'd put that on there, because so then they wouldn't have that bonus of having that card available, and then that extra location, they wouldn't have that for them. And then that's a total combined victory point loss in that location combined. So other players can join in and reduce it as well. So in this situation, we didn't have a tie. So this player would win the battle. They would get the 3 points for the Citadel. So they'd add that on there like so. We're doing that real quick. You put that over there. You slide these down. Turn that over. And you start up the next round. You take your card and you place it onto your legacy pile, like so. And then now you go through your deck and you pick another one. This continues on until you have 1 card left. I'm just going to, once again, not doing this every single round, if you will, until each person has 1 card left. Then they take the other cards back in their hand. Whatever card they have left becomes the first card on their legacy pile. And then they start up again. And you do that 3 times. You go through the whole process of choosing the cards and going through their decks 3 times, and after 3 times you total up, and whoever has the most victory points will win. Now remember, you also get the bonus from this die, but here's the really cool rule. If the score is tied, after all is said and done, the person with the fate die actually does lose. So if you're in a situation where you had, this was at like say 7, and because of those 7 extra points, you tied the other player, you'd then lose anyway because of the fact that you had the fate die. It's kind of a cool little rule, and it's happened a few times, and it's kind of neat that that's the tiebreaker. So there you go. That is how to play Strife. This has a lot of things going forward as far as like the old Legacy of the Ancients, and you can combine this with the other game and make sure that like you play that you can play these cards against the other ones. And I've done that, and it's a lot of fun. And I've enjoyed the different combinations and the different strategies and what have you. So you can't like combine the cards or whatever. You have to you can't like take like the 5, 6, and 7 from Legacy of the Ancients and put it into this deck. But you can challenge the Legacy of the Ancients deck with the Shadows and Steam deck, however. So there you go. That should give you a really good idea of how to play Strife. I've had a lot of fun with it. So let me tell you more about it in my conclusion. Alright, thank you very much for sitting through the gameplay portion of the video. Now, you could pretty much go back if you wanted to and look at my summation back for my Legacy of the Ancients video. It's going to be pretty much the same for this one. This is one of those games that I really, really enjoy. I wasn't a big 2-player game player when I was younger and just getting into the hobby. I seem to always have a group of 4, a group of 5 people. But what happened and what kind of spurred this a renaissance of two-player games in the last 3 or 4 years is the fact that I found some like-minded people at my job where over lunch this was something that we could do. Play these short little games that you can finish up in a half hour to 45 minutes or even less. And and it's just something that it's an activity to kind of take my mind off of the drudgery that is my job. So if my boss is watching, it isn't drudgery. No. So the thing is that I enjoy games like this where the game is taught in a very, very short period of time, and the familiarity with the game comes quickly. You kind of learn all the different powers of the different cards, and then it just becomes matching wits with the person across the table, and I enjoy that. I mean, I can handle playing a game where somebody happens to roll a really good die or happens to get that perfect card, the perfect situation, that sort of thing, and they beat me. That's fine. That's just. But I'm gonna win those games on like just as often, because it's random chance, right? But I really enjoy games where I can actually show that I, can think ahead by 2 or 3 moves, or I can plan for the occasion where a certain card, holding it in reserve until that perfect moment where I play it, that sort of thing. I can plan a certain set of circumstances where I can debilitate somebody and like take away points, those sorts of things. And those are the times that it really gives me those like aha moments, or like where I feel kind of smart and I can smile quietly to myself and be entertained by my cleverness. And on the same kind, I can like learn something when somebody else does the same thing. And these are one of those games, as you keep playing them, you get used to the different movements and the different dynamics of the powers, and it just kind of becomes a richer, more like cultured experience, if you will. It might not be the best adjective, but that's the best thing. It's like one of those things where it seasons itself and ages over time with each play. And I've really enjoyed the heck out of Strife Legacy of the Ancients, and my first 5 or 6 plays of delving into this version of the game adds even more. I have combined the two and played them. It's a lot of fun. I mentioned that, and I like that dynamic as well. And I really look forward to the fact, hopefully it won't be 2 years before I see another one of these decks, because I really think that like with the inclusion of more and more of these player cards and more of these settings, this game's really going to be enjoyable in the foreseeable future. So there you go. That is Strife Shadows in Steam. If you have any questions about the game, please post away. I'll answer those to the best of my ability. As always, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, this was me, the Undead Viking, telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.